Hello, this is Liz Lawless, your host for Wild West Diversity, where we tell the rarely and untold stories of multicultural contributions to the settling of the American Wild West. Each Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be sharing a historical legend and a living legend. Someone from history and someone living that Western lifestyle today, keeping it alive for the future generation. We hope you'll join us on Thursday. If not, we'll see you on the trail. Hello, this is your host, Liz Lawless for Wild West Diversity. And today we're going to take a little bit of a departure. I had a great friend who passed away recently from a brain tumor. He actually had the same condition that my mother had, and kind of in about the same time frame. My mother died in 8 weeks from the first time she had seizures to having brain surgery to not being able to get it all and then passing away. And so Randy had a similar experience, and so I've been trying to kind of figure out how I could do a tribute to him. And so I had a interview that I had done with Randy a few years ago when I had a Creative Passions radio show, very first internet show years ago, probably more than 10 years ago. And Randy and I did an interview that still I think is just fabulous. And he was a musician, a master musician, wonderful piano player. Played the guitar, played by ear, learned, had lessons and stuff. His family had one of the first music stores and recording studios in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they discovered a lot of people. They created a bunch of records. And I knew his dad's company for years because my mother sold their stuff in the store. So I knew immediately when he mentioned what their label was. I was like, oh my gosh, we sold your records in our store. So we had a lot of connections that we didn't know about. So I want to share today a part of this interview that I did with Randy. One, because the historical perspective of it. One, you'll see and hear his music and his fabulous arrangements. But the historical perspective of gospel music and Western swing. He is a part of the Wills gospel family. A lot of our people will know Bob Wills, who's the king of Western swing, or was considered that king for so many years in the early years. Part of the Light Crust Doughboys, original established that band. That is the longest running country swing band in the world. It still operates today, and it's managed by Art Greenhall. And Randy actually played with them these last few years, and he's been performing with them probably more than that. I guess probably about the last 10 years. So, because that's when we met. So we're going to play a little bit of that interview for you, and then I'll come back and tell you maybe a couple of more stories about Randy that he told me. And I just wanted to do this tribute for him today and for our watchers and our listeners. I think you'll learn something maybe that you didn't know. And I want you to meet this great friend of mine, Randy Wills. Hello, this is Liz Lawless, and welcome to Creative Passions Radio. We're happy to have you today visiting with us and listening online on internet radio. And we want to welcome Randy Wills to join us today. And we're going to be talking with Randy about his creative passion, or passions, as the case may be, as some of us have more than one passion. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Good to be here.
Thanks so much. So we'll just start right off the top. What's your number one passion besides Don and the kids and the family? I know that's your main thing. But,
exactly right. I've got a wonderful family and some talented kids and stepkids, but they are all musical, and part of that has to do with my passion. Since I was just a young boy, growing up in a musical family, second generation, third generation, all about music. And so I knew early on as a boy in the 50s, if I want to share my age, of my love for music. It was all around me. I thought everybody did music, so I wanted to do it.
Was it performing music? Was it playing, or was it the singing, or was it all of the above? When did you start?
Yeah, it had to do with piano. I did because my dad had the only music store in Arlington, Texas, for about 10 years or so, from the mid-50s to the mid-60s. And I grew up playing on some guitars, bass guitars, ukuleles, working in the store from about age 10 on. I learned how to sell guitar picks and pick through the string drawer to find the right guitar string to go on a guitar and that kind of thing. But ultimately ended up being the piano for me. So I started taking lessons when I was age 7 and took for 8 years till I was 15, and had some great teachers along the way. A couple of them still alive and with us today in their 80s. But my last teacher, Jack Taylor, I studied with him about 3 years. And as time went on, he was trying to teach me all the good stuff, the classics, correct, legitimate approach to playing piano. And I got down that road a little ways, but my ear took over.
Yeah.
And he loved to fuss at me about halfway through the lesson. He'd say, "No, wait just a minute. You're not reading that music. You're playing that by ear, aren't you?" And so eventually I bailed on the lessons and started playing by ear off the cuff, and kind of been my passion ever since.
I took lessons too, and we always had to play all those classical things. And all of us always wanted to play something else, but I appreciate it now because I can read music and I can sing songs.
Yeah.
I can recognize a lot of things. And so it really was a great education. And I think every kid ought to learn how to play some kind of musical instrument, don't you?
Absolutely.
It's a shame that some of that's missing from families today. We're so caught up in electronic gadgets and other things. But
yeah, I like the old school approach to that. And because my dad did have the music store in town, and that evolved into sort of adjoining buildings that included a piano store and teaching studios. Then I started teaching when I was in high school, just little kids and beginners, and did that for about 4 years. And all I had to figure out was that in the 60s, you could charge $2.50 for a half-hour lesson. That's $5 an hour.
$5 an hour.
And most of my pals in high school were working really hard mowing a yard for $2 or maybe $3. I taught for as long as I could till I graduated and headed off to college.
Great. So from that point, did it change, or was music always when you went out to college and were out there in the world? Did some other things come along and interfere with that, or did you always just continue the music stuff? And
I stayed in music, and because of my family background in gospel music, it's the gospel music branch of the Wills family. My granddad, Aaron Burr Wills, was first cousin to Bob Wills, the king of Western Swing. And but I didn't know much about that or know to appreciate all that about Bob Wills until I was much older. But so I grew up doing gospel music, and I thought everybody did. Everybody loved it, not knowing it was just a little subculture of the musical world that we lived in at the time. But in high school, I started playing jazz and learned about that. About the same time, I quit taking piano lessons.
That's you started.
And talked the band director in. I think he bent the rules my junior and senior year because he let me play with their stage band, even though I was not in the band class or in the marching band. Everybody else had to be in the marching band. He let me come along and play, and that was a great experience for me. We went off to a tri-state competition one time down in Brownwood, Texas, and I came home with a little trophy. I was the best jazz piano player, and so I started down that road way back then, late 60s, early 70s.
Great. Okay. I'm assuming you were engaged in other activities during your college years, your early career, doing musical kinds of things, playing with a band. Did you have your own band in that kind of high school, college, or did that come along later?
In early high school, mid-60s, just like every other kid that cared a lick about any kind of music, the Beatles came to town. Guitars ruled the world, just about to put us piano players out of business, as we used to say. So I learned to play bass guitar, and pretty easy to do. Got one from my dad's music store, learned to play She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, and so forth, and was in a garage band with some friends and some other cousins, and so did that for a few years. But pretty early on, from college days, I played with the college band, again, the stage band at Eastfield College, and went out there for a couple of years and did my first a professional gig playing pop music in 1972. There was a restaurant here in town called the Railhead Restaurant.
Oh, sure.
Over on Greenville.
Sure, on Greenville Avenue.
So I've got to go over there and at the time make what was really good money and played full time in a little pop band. And so we did all the Stevie Wonder and John Denver and a little touch of Steely Dan, whatever was on the charts. We
At the
did
time.
it. So that was a great experience. And over that
Wonderful.
process, and I guess all through the 70s, just widened the scope for me of all the various styles of music.
Different types of music.
Finally got to do some country music after Bob Wills died, and into the late 70s, learned to appreciate all that.
Okay, great. We need to take a break here, and we'll be back, and we'll be talking more with Randy about maybe some of the struggles and some of the accomplishments and a few of his highlights and moments, either people you met over the years that really had an impact on you and influence. And so we'll be back shortly. Thanks so much.
All right, so that's a little piece of that. And so if you want to hear the rest of that, I'll put that in the show notes. But like you say, Randy grew up in this family. I'm hoping here at the end we'll be able to play some of his music for you, arrangement that he did. But if not, you can find that at Creative Passions Results Podcast. If you go to any podcast platform and put that in, or put my name in, Liz Lawless, that's called the Legends version. And so it's a 3-part series. So that was the first part that you heard. There actually is a second and a third part. And so, like you say, Randy was a wonderful musician. He taught, he played, he recorded music. After this, his dad had one of the first recording studios, and they recorded over 500 gospel albums for people. One of the folks that his dad, Calvin, discovered was the Gatlin family singers, which were 3 brothers and a sister and their mother playing the piano. And they came out of a small town over here, and they came in and they produced this album of gospel songs. And today, you know those guys as the Gatlin brothers, the 3 brothers. So Randy has known them all his life. In these later years, this past 10 years, he's been playing. The Gatlin brothers, as some of you know, have kind of had a resurgence here over these last few years. They've been performing again. Before COVID especially, they were, and doing some things in Branson and other places around the country. And Randy played with them as the piano player. He also got his opportunity to make that circle connection with the Wills family, and he was one of the piano players for the Light Crust Doughboys. And like I say, that's how we met, because I was the publicist for the Light Crust Doughboys for a few years, and when I had my advertising company before I got into publishing. And so Randy and I had met and visited, and like I say, he had this rich history, and we sold his albums in our store. My mother had a Christian bookstore. Some of you know that. Some of you might not know that. But we sold all those albums that his dad and they recorded. And they created a little recording studio in one of their other buildings. And then Randy became a producer, and he produced albums and records for other people. One of the things he didn't mention yet, but he mentions in, I guess, the second or the third part of the interview, is his family was on the TV, because we used to have a gospel music hour on the television on ABC, which is a main network. For 5 years, his family were the Wills Gospel Family singers, and they were on the television every day for an hour on Sunday mornings. And, people don't know that because they don't do that anymore. But that was something that some of us grew up listening to and watching. And so great history here. His family also established the Texas Gospel Music Association, his dad, and they gave awards every year for the best gospel music and the best gospel music albums. And so they ended up having hundreds of albums in their museum, and over the years, and so many great musicians and singers and groups, individuals, soloists, as well as duets and family singers and groups that sang, quartets, a lot of quartets. And some of you may know Dallas was a big mecca for gospel music publishing. So we had a couple of the biggest publishing companies in the world that published gospel music, the actual sheet music that you would find and put on the piano and learn the notes from. I mean, that's the music that I grew up practicing and learning. I was learning a lot of that Bach and Beethoven and all of those kinds of things too. And of course, we all wanted to play Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head or something like that instead of these classical pieces. But like you say, it's given me a better appreciation for music and for people like Randy, who are so gifted, who was so talented, and played the piano. He had his own band. He had his own jazz band that played for people, for corporations, for organizations, for festivals. He had a wonderful band with his lovely wife, Dawn. They had a gospel trio with another lady, and they sang gospel music for so many years, these last few years, and just wonderful musician. And like you say, his son a musician, I think, and then Dawn's daughters, both are musical, and so the whole family has great musical history and a great musical background and legend. They basically are legends. Randy was a living legend. His dad and his family on both sides were legends. And if you don't know about Bob Wills, you can go and find out about him. If you like Western swing music, you've heard his songs. Even if you don't know who he is, you probably have heard it. Same thing with the Gospel Wills family. You probably heard some of their songs, didn't know that's who it was that sang those songs, recorded those songs, produced those songs, and made it available to people so that people could listen and learn the songs and learn the words and things like that. So I wanted to give this tribute to Randy and for his family, for his wife Dawn, and all the family, the kids and the grandkids. He'll be sorely missed for sure. And one of the most fascinating things, probably one of the most fascinating musical things I've ever seen, is we were at a concert over in Mesquite, Texas, with the Light Crust Doughboys. And we actually had two pianos set up that night because Art Greenhall, who's the lead for the Light Crust Doughboys now, he was the youngest member that ever joined the band, joined when he was in his 20s. And now he's been with them, obviously, 30, 40 years now. And he manages the band right now because if you die, they just replace you with somebody else. They don't quit playing, they don't quit singing, they don't quit performing. They're the longest running country swing band in the world, and they've just continued each year. And as somebody starts to retire or maybe get sick or something, they've always got somebody in the wings. They're always training up young people and giving young people and other people an opportunity to come and be a part of the band and sing with the band. And so we were there one night, and Randy was on one piano and Art was on another piano. And I wish we'd have videotaped this. I mean, it was the most outstanding thing I've ever really seen in my life musically. And Randy played the chord, Randy played the song, and Art played it on the other piano. And then Art would play something, and then Randy would pick it up, and he would play it too. And they just started to call out songs, and they would start playing them, like gospel songs. And then they took requests from the audience, and then they had people from the audience just call out a song and then either Randy would start playing or Art would start playing, and then the other one would join in. And it was the most astonishing thing that I'd ever seen and heard. I mean, just off the top, no plan, no training, this wasn't something they rehearsed. They just, such great musicians, master musicians. They had mastered their craft so well that they were just able to take those requests off the top of somebody's head and perform in a professional manner. And everybody in the place was blown away. We just none of us could believe how they could just do that and just play and just feed off of each other. But that's what great musicians do. So I wanted to give that tribute to Randy and his family. Like I say, you can go to any podcast platform that that's your favorite platform. It doesn't matter if it's Spotify or Anchor or iTunes, PBS, iHeart, anything like that that you're listening to. You can go and you could just look up Liz Lawless or look up Randy Wills. That's Randy Wills, WILLS, for those of you who are listening to this as a podcast and not actually seeing the live stream. You can look that up. It's Creative Passions Results. That was a show. I mean, I had that show years ago before the internet. We had a radio show, and then we had the internet show. And so now it's on as a podcast. And so you can go and look that up there. You also can find it at creativepassionsradio.com. So we do have a website where some of those early interviews that we had are. But Randy's interview is there as a legend, is one of the legendary interviews that we did. There also is a Geach Cook, who was the owner of Lukenbach, Texas. Some of you might remember a song called Take Me to Lukenbach, Texas. And that was done by Whaley and Willie and the boys. And so they used to hang out there at Lukenbach and come up with these songs and write these songs and play poker in the back room or cards in the back room and for pennies. I think they played for pennies or nickels, and they would make Willie put his money up because he was a long-haired hippie and they didn't trust him. Some of those Germans that they were playing cards with or dominoes and stuff in the back room of the post office, they didn't trust Willie Nelson, so they made him put his money on the table before he played. And but great stories, great history, and that's what Wild West Diversity is all about. We're about telling those diverse stories of history that many people don't know and you haven't heard before. So I'm sure there was some of the stuff that Randy was talking about that you hadn't heard before. And if you go and listen to the rest of his conversation, the rest of our conversation, our interview, you'll find out more things that you did not know about great musicians. Like I say, like the Gatlin brothers, who it's always fun to see people that you knew as kids go on to do well. And so I know Randy's dad was very proud and very excited that he was one of the first people to work with their family and in a musical capacity, and was able to bring them, make those records for them, those albums, and share that with the world. So I hope you'll go and listen to the whole interview with Randy here on Wild West Diversity. We're here every Thursday, 5 p.m. We'll be talking in the next few weeks. We're going to be talking with some other musical entertainers, Carlos Washington. Carlos was a bull rider in addition to being a musician. African-American bull rider. And so if you'll go and subscribe to our podcast or go to our YouTube channel at Wild West Diversity, we're still trying to get our numbers up. So we wish you'd please go and subscribe. Punch the red button and subscribe today. You may have to search Wild West Diversity. If you go to our social media on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, we'll have the links there. If you just scroll back through our post, we'll post the links to the YouTube channel. You also can just go to YouTube and search Wild West Diversity. Same thing. We have our shows are all on the podcast as well. So you can go and search Wild West Diversity on the podcast, and you can find our previous episodes. So this is episode 26, I think, is it? And so we're very excited that we're continuing to have these great interviews with people. So coming up, we'll be talking with Carlos Washington. We'll be talking with our Russ T. Crawdaddy Smith. Russ is not only does Crawdad festivals. That's a spring thing that happens only in the spring down here in Texas. He's in Austin, Texas. And so Russ is also our man on the ground. He's going to be going out this fall, and he's going to be interviewing some of our ranchers and our cowboys and cowgirls on the ground that actually are living that lifestyle today, that are managing land, that have land and property, that are raising horses, that are raising cattle, And so Russ is going to be bringing us kind of a special feature each month where he's going to be out talking to one of these ranchers in Texas or Oklahoma or other places across the country. And so we'll hope you'll be checking in for that. So, but we'll be talking to Russ about his life and how he got involved with rodeo and with cowboys and how he got involved with his crawdaddy business too, for sure. Because that's a part of our Texas culture, part of Louisiana culture. And so we're talking about all those things. This is a multicultural show. We're talking about African American contributions, about Hispanic contributions. We'll be talking to Jerry Diaz, the Charo of the Heart out of San Antonio, New Braunfels area. Jerry's a fourth, fifth generation Charo, and his son's coming along, and he's in the business too. So we have our up and coming living legends in addition to our current living legends. So they'll be here with us in the next few weeks. So come back here each week on Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you missed one of our previous shows, you can always come back and see that. We've talked about Buffalo Soldiers. We've talked with our circus man, Jose Hernandez. We've talked to Sam Allen, our other Buffalo Soldier. We've talked to Kevin Woodson, one of our rodeo announcers. We talked with Abe Morris, the shootout cookie, chocolate chip shootout cookie man. And also he was a rodeo bull rider and an announcer and an author. So check out Abe Morris and his book, My Cowboy Hat Still Fits, which is about his days as a bull rider. And so a lot of exciting things here, a lot of people. We had a great conversation with Wild Bill from Wild Bill's Western Wear and from Lance Dubray with Sidekick Wallets. And I want to remind you again that till the end of the month, we are having a contest. And so that's why we want you to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we're going to pull those names and we're going to be drawing for a Sidekick wallet. This is a special wallet that you can hook to your boot, you can hook to your belt. It also latches. It also has got a chain so that nobody can steal your stuff, nobody can pickpocket you. We have amazing colors. They have this wonderful turquoise for women, and I think they have a pink one. We have this brown one. Brown leather. It's all made. It's got a flap so you can keep your credit cards. It's got a place where you can keep your keys. It opens up. You can put your keys in, your money, and all of that. So you don't have to carry a purse. They have it in black. They have it with, like you say, just the plain black leather. This is a brown leather, as you can see. This green one, as you can see, it has cowhide. It has it has actual stuff on the front. So we have a black one like that, as well as this turquoise one. So I think there are like 6 different colors, but we'll be drawing a name here at the end of the month. So to participate, you'll have to go to our YouTube channel, the youtube.com, and search Wild West Diversity. Go down to scroll down to our channel where our videos are, and all of our videos are there that you can watch. They're recorded there. We do them live, and then we put them up in the archive as a recording, and you can listen to those and watch those at any time. But if you'll punch that red button and subscribe, we'll be pulling the names for all the people that have subscribed in the last few weeks, and we'll be doing a drawing. And then we'll get in touch with you and we'll tell you who the winners are. We'll announce the winners here on the show as well, so that you'll know who that is. And then we'll be shipping those out to you. We also have a new book, African American Western Legends Yesterday. So that's a story of about 16 of our historical legends. It's a children's book, and so we'll be giving a couple of those away. We just got a big order in this week because we have a presentation, a book signing at the African American Museum in Dallas, Texas on Saturday. So if you happen to live in the North Texas area and you're listening or watching this, or come see us on Saturday over at the African American Museum. We'll be there for the Tulasoma Book Festival. from 12 noon to 4 p.m. The museum is at Fair Park. So if you live anywhere in the North Texas area, you know that maybe Fair Park is where the state fair is, and it's right downtown near downtown Dallas. And so we'll hope you'll come out. There'll be a number of authors there, especially African American authors with their books. There'll probably be about 20 or 30 authors there, and we'll each be sharing something about our stories, and we'll be sharing our books with people. So come out and see us there. And like I say, subscribe. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we'll be giving these Sidekick wallets out, and we'll be giving a couple of books out as well. So thanks so much for watching. If you're a person that likes a written story, you can go to wildwestdiversity.com and subscribe there. You can put your email in, and then you have access to these written versions of our stories because we're posting that as well. So each time we do an interview each week, we're putting that backstory and that contact information and how you can reach these people if you'd like to get in touch with them. Maybe you want them to come and speak. Maybe you have a school or a church or an organization, a men's or a women's group. And all of our people that we're talking to are great role models. They're great legends, and they're living legends. And they have a great history to share with children or adults. So we hope you'll do that. We hope you'll come back each week. We'll be here on Thursdays, 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. This has been your host, Liz Lawless, for Wild West Diversity, and we'll see you on the trail. Hello, this is Liz Lawless, your host for Wild West Diversity, where we tell the rarely and untold stories of multicultural contributions to the settling of the American Wild West. Each Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll be sharing a historical legend and a living legend. Someone from history and someone living that Western lifestyle today, keeping it alive for the future generation. We hope you'll join us on Thursday. If not, we'll see you on the trail.